Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally, and I'm laughing only because of what we just said. This is Coach's Corner. I'm here with Polly Letofsky in My Word Publishing. Now, so this is going to be about publishing your book. And the reason I'm laughing is because when we first had a conversation, because I've self-published, it's easy for the professionals in that space to say, Keith, this could probably be done a little bit better. And so I'm used to those conversations. I'm quite all right with those conversations. I'm not out here at all to embarrass you, Polly, but you have a unique approach to this that gives more power to the author, the writer, than most other publishing agencies. And so the backstory to this front story is going to be found in the description because you told me all about walking around the world and how that led up to your current position. And so, of course, we want people to hear that backstory. Polly, this is all about you. How do you help people publish books?
We do have a unique approach. When I got done walking around the world, which took 5 years, then 6 years to write the book about it, little FYI, and then I was exploring my publishing options. And I don't want to pretend that big traditional houses were throwing themselves at me, but I was talking to two of them, and both of them wanted me to throw some romance in my book. And I'm like, but there wasn't any. You want me to just make it up? And they're like, well, can't you take some literary license? I'm like, oh boy, because I'm writing one book, right? So I didn't want to. And I'd sort of made a promise to myself that I would tell an honest story even when it made me look bad. When I got grumpy, lost my patience, overreacted. Do you know what I mean? I
Do you
wanted to
do
tell
those
an
things?
honest story. Well, I would have had to take some literary license. No, I'm just kidding. But I wanted to tell an honest story, and that's what I really had sort of promised myself anyway. So they want me to go add some romance in. I'm like, oh boy. So I thought, okay, well now what? I don't want to go that route. So I decided I would. I heard about this hybrid publishing, partner publishing. Oh, that sounds swell. We'll sit around and drink chai and talk about the development and that's the route I went. I didn't want to go this self-publishing route because it just wasn't professional and I didn't like it, blah blah blah. So anyway, I go with this
And this was
hybrid
when
publisher.
exactly? When were you looking at
This is
publishing?
like 2007, 8, 9,
Okay.
in those years.
Okay.
Okay. So self-publishing was nowhere where it is today. Nowhere. And it looked cheap and it looked self-published. And I got one story to tell. I wanted to do the best job I could. So I figured I'd go with this hybrid publisher. That sounds swell. I like partnerships and collaboration, and that's what it's all about. And we'll share. And they had the knowledge and I had the story. This sounds fantastic. And
There's
here's
where
what
the
I,
romance comes in.
yeah. No, that didn't work either.
Okay.
So um, I learned a lot of very painful and expensive lessons. And one of them is when you sign a contract with a publisher, whether it's hybrid or what they call subsidy publishing, which is they have the publishing imprint. I won't say any names, but you might even have your copyrights, but they have the publishing name. And when you sign that contract, it's a one-way street. Okay. It's like a marriage where you sign on and there's no sign off date, right? And that's like a publishing contract. They don't have exit dates, right? And I think some of that is starting to change right now. A friend of mine published with Penguin 20 plus years ago, just got her rights back. Okay. So, it is changing, but that is for the most part the way it is. And I learned that lesson because everyone had always told me, you got to keep your copyrights. You got to keep your copyrights. I'm like, all right, I'll keep my copyrights. So I go to this hybrid publisher and I say, can I keep my copyrights? She says, yeah, sure. Oh, okay. That was easy. But what no one ever mentioned, and certainly I didn't even know to ask, is all the other rights you're giving up.
Hmm.
There's sales rights and distribution rights. There's foreign rights. There's digital rights. Do you know there is a right? I forget what they call it, but it's that we get all the rights to anything in the future that may happen, but we don't know exists right now. Okay. So, like audiobooks, right? If I had signed a contract 20 years ago to say, we get the rights of anything in the future, that would have been audiobooks. They didn't exist then, but they would still have the rights to it.
Wow.
So I had my copyrights. She had everything else. So that was useless. Anyway, um, I want to make sure people understand there are people that rip you off, but then there are just bad decisions. I think my initial publishing choice was a little bit of both. Bad decision, but also, she did rip me off. All these clauses in the agreement she never
Yeah. Well,
abided to.
the cliche is we don't know what we don't know. And so
Yeah,
when you walk into a situation not knowing a whole lot and not even knowing that you should know it, it puts you in a bad position.
and dangerous and expensive,
Yeah.
So again, it's like a divorce. Then you get attorneys involved and there's crying and screaming, lots of money involved, right? You got to break this up. But yeah, so I kept my copyrights. She owned everything else. And the sales rights and distribution rights, I think, are very important because really what that means is all the sales go through them, that company. And then you get your portion of those royalties every 6 months, forever. And those royalties have to add up to X amount, usually $75. If your royalties don't add up to $75 in that 6 month period, it rolls over into the next 6 month period. Okay. Or you can pay $12 to get your royalty check. So if you made $60, you got to pay $12 to get the $60. Anyway, so there's weird things like that. So I want, if anyone takes anything away from this conversation we're having today, please own all your rights there. And this is going on in the music industry as well, really big time. In the world today, there's no reason in the world why you cannot own 100% of all your rights. And that's the copyrights and the sales rights and the distribution rights and final decision making. There's no longer a reason to give those up. So once I realized I was in a lot of trouble, long story short, I got attorneys involved and I decided to make a run for it, meaning I'm breaking the contract. Because
Okay.
the attorney said, you can run for it or you can work things out. I'm like, well, I ain't working it out, so I'm running for my life, right? So I run for my life. I didn't own anything anyway, so what's she gonna get? And then I thought, well, what now? I don't want to go the big route, the big traditional house route. I don't want to go this partner publishing route. I look into this self-publishing thing. And so I go to this class, right? And I sit in the back with some attitude. But then people started talking, and what was happening and what's still happening is the big traditional house world is downsizing and merging and going out of business. And the people that worked in those houses are spreading out into the self-publishing world. So we can have the very professional, experienced, well-skilled editors, cover designers, layout designers. We can now get into full worldwide distribution for free. Click a button, you're in worldwide distribution and own all your rights and their foreign rights and everything else. So this is quite stunning. So my world just blew up. I got so excited and republished my own book. And then all these people, that's now what self-publishing is starting to blossom. And all my friends kept talking to me saying, talk to Polly, everyone talk to Polly, she's figured it out. And so I'd meet people at the Paneras and just say, all right, here's what you got to know. I've made all the mistakes. You're welcome. And here's a schedule of how you should do it and timelines to expect and cost to expect and who to work with, who not to work with. I got a blacklist over here. And now 2-3 times a week, I'm meeting with people as this industry is starting to explode. And then I had a conversation with someone who does interior design. And I said, I'm giving serious thought to helping people self-publish their books, essentially doing everything a publisher does and managing the whole process, but I maintain no rights. And the next day someone called me. She said, my name is Barbara. Someone told me you could help me self-publish my book. And I said, yeah, meet me at the Paneras. And then I said, listen, I've been doing this now for 3 years. I've done my book, I've done my mother's book, and I've helped a lot of people, but I've never managed someone's project.
Hmm.
Would you be my first beta girl? She says, yeah, sure. And that book went on to become a movie on the Hallmark Channel. So that was our first book. And that was 11 and a half years ago. And we now have 4 publishing coaches and 900 books and about
All
40
because of
editors,
one movie?
etc. Since our first book, I should
Okay.
say. Yeah. And then about a year and a half ago, we were awarded submission into the U.S. congressional record. You can kind of see it right there.
You see it? Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. congressional record for being a new publishing model that helps protect the rights of authors and interrupted the established publishing world. So we're very proud of that
Well, then I have
honor.
to give you a congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I got no other life. I got 3.5 cats and, so I don't do anything else,
Whoa,
but
whoa, whoa, time. You gave a half of a cat's
well,
recognition.
yeah, this
I
cat
caught
landed
that.
literally on my belly. I was like, well, who are you? It turns out to be this kind of a cat that roams the hood who that was 3 years ago. So I kind of take care of him.
Okay.
So he's
So,
not half a cat.
okay, I'm just making sure.
Okay.
What are there secrets to writing a book and getting it published and making a good impression with an audience to say this is a book worth buying? I know I hear the TEDx stage is an idea worth sharing, but in the book world, it's got to be a book worth buying. Is there secrets to that?
I don't know about secrets, but can I say that there are things you just don't take a shortcut on? All right. Do you think people can't tell? People that don't know nothing about books can tell at a glance if your book was self-published. I call slapdash, meaning, well, I had my mother edit it. Nothing against mothers. I love mothers, but um, and you did your cover on Canva or something. If you want a professional book, you've got to get professionals involved. You don't take a shortcut with your
With any of
cover.
it? Okay.
You don't.
Okay.
Okay. And frankly, we love Canva. Okay. But Canva, what happens is, and actually they do good covers. So why am I giving them attitude? Because if Amazon sees the same cover coming over a couple of times, they now make you sign off saying you have not used AI on a book, right? You got to click yes or no. And if they start seeing the same cover over and over again, which you could easily do with a Canva sample, right? They won't put it up.
You mean
They
on
have to
different,
get
like different
serious
people
about
write a
that.
book but use the same cover,
Yeah.
that becomes an issue.
Yeah. So I do love Canva, FYI. Love. I remember the moment. Oh, that I was
See,
introduced.
there is
But
romance in your life. It's just
yes,
not, it's just not in your book.
it's with Canva. But you don't do your book, your cover with Canva. You get a professional designer, okay? And editing. Geez. There are ways to take, say, a shortcut with layout, and but not with editing.
Okay.
And not with a cover, because that's a first impression. That's a first impression. If you want a professional book, it is saying who you are. It really is saying who you are. I remember some guy wanted to hire me for some speaking engagement about my walk. Okay, so he didn't know the other hat that I wore. And I meet him and he pushes his book across the table. He's, look at the book I just released. Isn't it great? At a glance, I just went, wow, this guy is a shortcut taker and he's sloppy and he's not professional. I mean, maybe I'm a little judgmental, fair enough. I decided because of that I would not work with him. And you know what? I went along to follow how he was going to continue with this event, and I was right. It does tell you something about that person,
Well,
you
now I
know.
don't want to know all the feedback you're thinking about my book.
I,
I don't even want to have that conversation.
Well, let me say this, that it's kind of cool these days that anyone can get their content into the world. There's no longer a gatekeeper sitting there telling you, yes, your content is good enough to get out into the world, and your content is not. And so that's kind of cool. And it depends on your goals. If you want to, write a book for the family, boy, as a publishing coach, I will not put you through, you know, our A-list cover designer and a developmental edit that could be painful and expensive. I'm not going to do that. So when we put together someone's project, we really want to figure out their goals. All right. What you can't do is, because I've had people ask this, well, can't I just throw it up there right now and then see how it does? And if it's doing okay, then I'll back up and do it right. No, you can't do that. Okay, first of all, you've already made a reputation for yourself. Secondly, you cannot take reviews off Amazon. So that title is going to follow you. Okay, so we did that with one guy. Well, he put a slapdash book up and then eventually came around. He says, okay, I'm ready to do it right this time. We can't use the same title. We got to change the title,
You should change the book.
unpublish his
Yeah,
previous
yeah,
book. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And people did say in the reviews, great content, but boy, he really needed an editor. Review after review after review, people would say that.
Yeah.
So if he put up a new book, people don't know what's a new book. They're getting those reviews. Anyway, bottom line, if you want a professional book, you got to get professionals involved. But, and I mean this sincerely, not everyone wants or needs a professional book, because I want to keep an eye on people's wallets too. And there's the line that as a publishing coach, I'm sitting on saying, you know, I want to protect people's wallet, but I want to protect the integrity of that book as well. And if I see them coming this far, like, no, please don't do that. Okay, come on back. And equally, no, you do not need to spend that kind of money. Come on back to this line, right? So want to protect people's wallet and the integrity of their book. And this is the line we're walking. Does that make sense? So,
Not really, because I don't know about the content, but I know about the money part of the equation.
okay.
But with that being as it is, what type of people come to you and put their life in your hands?
I would say we do a lot of self-help books. Okay.
Okay.
People that want to have a speaking career and use this book as a lead generator for clientele and workshops and consultations, speaking engagements.
Yeah.
Um,
Do books work well in that kind of space as
Beautiful.
lead
That's the
generate?
best case scenario. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say memoirs. Usually people say like me, who I got one story to tell. It was a unique story. I got one story to tell. I don't want to become some great fancy writer, but I got one story to tell. I want to do it right. We get a lot of those. Okay. And those people also have a career as a speaker, therefore have that opportunity to sell books in the back of the room. And even when someone wants to hire you to speak, but oh, we don't have the budget for the speaker, you can leverage that book as your speaker fee. And I've done this a number of times. I'll say, can you find a sponsor to pay for the speaker, or find a sponsor to buy everyone a book? And then everyone's happy. The attendees are happy because they get a book. I'm happy because I get paid. And the meeting planners happy because they don't got to pay me. And the sponsor's happy because they get in front of their target demographic, right? So everybody's happy in that scenario. It works quite well. And then you can do things in self-publishing that you can't do outside self-publishing. For example, I can negotiate. If someone wants to buy 500 books, and this happened, I'll say, well, if you get a sponsor, I can put that sponsor's logo on the front cover of my book. Okay. And then you open the book and you see the title page. I'll say, you can own this title page. And a number of times they have put like the CEO of that company or that event, and they write a little note to all the attendees.
Wow.
In that title page. And then the back cover we can use as well for sponsorship opportunities. So those are ways that you can leverage your book for the speaker fee, and everybody's happy. So
That would make me happy. Most
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So lessons learned, I'll tell you. But and then of course, you can put in the back matter, we call it the back matter, which is everything after the main content. So it's like you tell your story and the end, and then everything after that. For example, if your book is good for a book club, self-help wouldn't necessarily be good for a book club, but a memoir would be. I do a lot of book clubs. So you put a little ad, for lack of a better term, in the back matter of your book. Please invite Polly to your book club, you know? And it can also be your workshops, your speaking, any services that you have. We can put that in the back matter of your book. So you can use that book again as a lead generator to, so your work is like a full circle, because the, say, workshops and speaking engagements sell you more books, and the more books you sell, the more speaking engagements and workshops you do. So it's a nice circle
Yeah,
or
absolutely. So
generation.
with all of that, you always say that you learned all this basically from the school of hard knocks, is what we call it in my generation. You
I got
learned
a
it the hard
got a
you
PhD in that.
you learned it the hard way, and I know some people who do have PhD in the school of hard knocks. Um, when somebody comes to you and they're giving you a gift, basically. This is their, and especially for first time authors.
Mhm.
I'm included with that because I do have my book. And they're giving you a gift. How do you approach that very first conversation with somebody to say you recognize what they're giving you, and they recognize that you are the person who is going to help them achieve some level of success with this product? How does that first conversation begin?
I do ask what their goals are, because that makes a big difference. We don't do these packages. Packages don't work, right? You go to the McDonald's and bad example because I don't go to McDonald's, but let's
How
have the
about the
number
Happy Meal?
three, no sausage and extra whatever. And so they just don't work. So anyway, I want to ask what their goals are, what their visions are. Do you envision yourself really marketing this book? I'm going to approach the project differently if they're not. And some people have said, listen, I'm retired. I want to put out a book. I've always wanted to write a book. I want to write the best book I can, have no intention of marketing it. I know where you are and where we're going to go with that. Believe it or not, yes, it's true. A lot of times. And if you think about it, that's okay. Like people retire and play golf. Are you going to make any money off golf? You know, you just want to go enjoy yourself and be the best that you can and hire the coach. And you ain't going to make no money out of that, right? Same thing with writing. So I want to ask their goals and their visions. Do you envision yourself up on a stage talking to people, like talking to a group? Is this a lead generator for your business, for consulting and workshop? What do you envision here? So we talk about that. And we also talk about timelines and costs to expect. And we just really get their heads around it. I want to know where they are in the writing so far too. So some people have just started, some people haven't started yet, some people have written the entire manuscript, and all that makes a difference. If someone has an idea, and here's a mistake that I made, I didn't know of such a thing called a writing coach. It took me 6 years to write my book, right? If I'd been working with a writing coach to help me structure everything and how I want to tell this story, that would have saved me 5 years. I could have gotten that done in a year, right? I don't know nothing. I ain't never written a book before. How do I do this? So I talked to someone a couple days ago. Well, I've started writing it. Everyone says I should write it, and it's the personal story. So I said, what I'd really like you to do is talk to a couple of writing coaches. We've already done the work as far as, are they reliable? Are they good at what they do? Are they trustworthy? Can you feel vulnerable with them? That's been covered. You just got to see if you bond. So it's like dating, right? Oh, he's cute and he's single and, but is there any chemistry? They got to go figure that out. So that's going to save them so much time and aggravation. They've got like a shoulder to cry on, someone to turn to if they get stuck. So I would send that person to a writing coach that then leads into editing and then production. If someone has already written the manuscript, we have the talk about goals and visions, and then I'll have a couple of editors look at it, because editing at the development level is very subjective, right? So it's like this editor might say, we could do is go this way and that way. And this person over here says, it's perfect as is. I don't see anything wrong with it. We don't got to go this way or that way. You know what I mean? So it's subjective. And who has the same vision as you, and who do you like and feel good with?
Hmm.
And they would give you a proposal on the work they think it needs, etc. So then we write the whole proposal. This much for editing, this much for cover, this much for layout, this much to hire Polly to manage that whole baby. We have this checklist, 189-point checklist, everything you got to do.
I
There's a
know you
lot.
just lied to me. 189-point checklist.
189.
You count
Sometimes
them?
it bumps up depending on what they need. Yes, and we meet about 15 times over the course. There are so many details to a book. Everyone that does a book comes out. I can't look at books the same. I go through the Barnes and Noble and go, oh, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? So it's fun, and people ask all the time, do you take any book? Well, we'll take any book. We just don't necessarily take any author, you know. If they're in a hurry, we don't do that. You can't be in a hurry, you know. Or gosh, like we had this one man, oh, and he was just going through major dementia. We can't do that. We can't do that because frankly, you know, we got to, you know, money is being exchanged. I don't want to do that with someone with dementia, and then their family comes up. You know what I mean? It gets a little dodgy. So it's like, well, we would do that, but I need some, you know, like adult children with me. Same with really young. We've dealt with 3 14-year-olds over the years who've put together very good fiction books.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I need an adult involved with this.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to charge a 14-year-old. You know, where's that invoice? Did you pay that thing? It gets a little dodgy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I got 2 more questions, 2 last questions, and we'll end this conversation. First question is, where do people find you in the world? Not literally. In the cyber world, where are you? Do you have a website? Of course, are you on LinkedIn and all that cool
Yes,
stuff?
we are at mywordpublishing.com,
Okay.
mywordpublishing.com, and you can have a free consultation with us. You can just sign up from the website there. Can I give another website as well? It's a free class that just lays out, it's called publishing101class.com, publishing101class.com. And it's actually on our website too. Okay. But it lays out you know, what to expect with publishing, whether it's traditional, small independent press, subsidy press, or true independent publishing, pros and cons to each, cost to expect, what you should never put up with. It covers all of that. And it's not even advertising ourselves, just you got to know that stuff going into this world because it's a hot mess. Do you know that 4 times in the last week, scams have come across, like those scams from, you just won this contest and you get $1,000. They're like, I didn't enter that contest. So they'll email me, is this real? And there's a couple sites you can go on to see what scams are going on. It's like, no, that's a scam. So no matter what, you've got to know what to look for, what to expect, what you should never put up with, etc. So that's why I'm pretty emphatic. People go there, publishing101class.com. Anyway, what was your second question?
For those like me, and I actually want to write another book, and so after this call, I want to have that conversation with you offline. Somebody comes to you, give them some motivation. They want to write a book. They haven't written it yet. They've got the idea in their head. It's gold to them. Keep them motivated. Give them something to keep them motivated today in this conversation.
It is the greatest time in world history to be a writer. And I'm not even exaggerating, you know. 10 years ago, we didn't have the tools. We had self-publishing, but we didn't have worldwide distribution. It is the best time in the world, and all of us have a different perspective because of where we grew up and then the eras we grew up in. And so your your angle of seeing things is unique, and you have a story to tell, and your thought leadership is important. And we can do that now. I mean, that's pretty exciting. So that's what I have to say. Don't forget how important people say there's enough business books in the world. I don't need to write one. And I'm like, well, you come from a different angle because you just told me that you started at 14 from this angle and then moved in through these various channels and jobs. You have a different take that's important to people. So it's the best time in world history to be able to get your messaging out into the entire world. That's really cool. So do it.
With that, there's no better way to end this conversation. Polly, thank you for being on Coach's Corner. For those of you who are watching and listening, I'll see you next time. Take care.